a crunch time win for the Boston Celtics. It didn't need to be, but Jaylen Brown and Derrick White answered the call for the Celtics' fifth straight win.
He's going to trap this ball down. Look at that speed. He saved it.
Brown goes inside. Oh, what a slam from Jaylen Brown.
He got it back inside. And one.
Got it. Blocked by Walsh.
What's up, everyone, and welcome in to your Celtic source, home of your 15-9 third place Boston Celtics. What a turn of events in this last couple of weeks here for the Celtics. After starting 0-3, they're now out to a 15-6 run, good for a 70% win percentage, a 50-60 win team if those 3 games were not counted. But as I said in that Lakers show, it's the way they're playing right now. And this game definitely was not the, tier 1 type of performance you were looking for. They did have a little bit of a collapse in the third quarter, but they answered the call in the fourth quarter, in crunch time, which is all that matters. But let's take a step back and we start with the first half, and then we'll get into how the Raptors were able to take a 20-point deficit and actually take the lead entering into the fourth quarter. And then obviously we'll finish it up with just the elite fourth quarter shot making of Derrick White, who, by the way, if you didn't know, he's officially back. But let's start with the first quarter and how the Celtics were able to get out to that early lead. The lead came in the second quarter, but it was the things that they were doing in the first quarter that were then able to build on in that second quarter and take that lead ultimately. And that is the transition defense and offense, coming out of that. The Raptors are known for their, elite defense and then, blocking shots, getting steals, getting out in transition, and just dominating teams that way. The Celtics aren't really that team. They were looking to be that team coming into the season, but it hasn't, held true. They haven't been, a top team in pace or, in steals and blocks. But this game, they basically took the Raptors' own medicine and put it back on them with 6 steals, 6 blocks in the first half alone. Just taking, fantastic defensive performances and getting free buckets on the other end in transition. Jordan Walsh was a recipient of some of those dunks. Derrick White had some of them. Jaylen Brown made some big threes on transition in the first half. Something that, I hope the Celtics will do more of, right? There is obviously the downside of going in for steals and blocks, is you do have that tendency to pick up some cheap fouls. We're going to talk about it in just a second, but Jordan Walsh was definitely a recipient of that and actually fouls out of the game. But more often than not, if you continue to do it, you get better at it, and you'll continue to, improve on the decision making, when to go in for a steal, when to go up and contest a shot versus step back in fear of, picking up a unnecessary foul, right? And, there was a little bit of that in this game, for sure, the unnecessary fouls, which kept the Raptors close in that first quarter. But then the Celtics figured it out as the second quarter went on. I did mention Jordan Walsh. I do want to quickly say that, Jordan Walsh, he did foul out of the game. He played an overall solid game, but the 2 cheap fouls that he picked up in the first quarter, trying to go up and block shots, didn't help him out as the game sort of neared the end. Just because, he was just not there to make a defensive presence in the third quarter when the Raptors were going on their run, actually. I wonder if Jordan Walsh was in the game, it could have changed this entire game. We wouldn't be sitting here at a crunch time win. There's nothing to take away but positives from a crunch time win. But there is the fact that it might have been, a third consecutive blowout had Jordan Walsh been able to stay on the court. But obviously, with him being in foul trouble with 3 first half fouls, he has to sit for most of the third quarter, and then he actually ends up picking up his 6th foul and exiting the game with 30 seconds or something to go. The Celtics had already secured the win pretty much by then. It was just a sort of back and forth fouling, free throws by that point. But still, it's not even about... Sometimes when we look at players fouling out of the game, it's not about, oh yeah, they fouled out the game and they weren't able to finish the game and that cost them the win. It's more the fact that they can't be on the court for entire, 10-minute stretches, in that third quarter specifically, and that's when you needed him most and you didn't have him. But going back to the first quarter, Sam Hauser seems to day by day be getting out of his his slump that he's in right now. Derrick White, fully out of his slump. We're going to go more into depth in Derrick White's performance in just a second. But Sam Hauser, after, shooting under 35% through the last many games, over the last couple of weeks now, he's been well under 35% after, obviously being a career 40-point, actually above 40-point three-point shooter, right? Ever since his second year of high school, he's never shot below 40% from 3. But then in this game, he's able to knock down, 3 of 7. He goes, 3 of 6 in the first half. He does miss 1 3 in the second half. But the point is, he's getting comfortable, getting back into a rhythm, and you're going to need that because you have guys that are starting to sort of lose their credibility. I think, right? I don't know what's going on with Chris Boucher. He hasn't played in, 15 games, something like that now. Baylor Shireman is getting less of a run. Josh Minot, I think his 3-point percentage is going to come down a little bit, right? It's not going to be up in 40%. We actually talked about this last night on our episode with my dad, saying that Josh Minot and Hauser are sort of switched right now in what we thought their percentages would be, right? Minot's up in the 40s, Hauser's down in the low 30s, and my guess is by the end of the season, that will flip-flop. And we're starting to see that now. Josh Minot missing a couple threes, some wide-open threes that he needs to be knocking down in this game. But more importantly, it's Sam Hauser's defense, right? Being able to hold your own against some of the Raptors centers in Pirtle and in Barnes, and also being able to stay in front of Shead, who actually was the driving force of that immaculate comeback from the Raptors in the third quarter. But let's talk about that, right? And then I think we'll finish up the show with Derrick White on the other end. But Jamal Shead, he's coming off the bench in this game, and he ends up scoring, he scores just 9 points, 4 of 10, 1 of 3 from 3. But it was the defense they was putting on Jaylen Brown and Derrick White in that third quarter, forcing them into just tough, not only threes, but mid-range shots, and trapping Derrick White and Jaylen Brown in the corner. Derrick White had some uncharacteristic turnovers in the third quarter, which came from just, unexpected, traps from the corner or from the paint, even from Jamal Shead specifically, coming out of just a place you would not expect to be doubling from, and Derrick White was not expecting that, right? Had he been expecting it, you can make that pass because it's not a great place to, those screens coming from places where you would have wide open threes or wide open dunks, specifically the ones coming from the paint. But the fact that they were so unexpected and Derrick White wasn't prepared for it, they worked out, right? And the Raptors just got tons and tons of steals and transitions in that third quarter, bringing this lead all the way back down to 0 and then actually taking the lead. But that's not the story of the game. The story of the game is the crunch time game and the performance we get from both Derrick White and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, he was pretty good all game long, so I'm going to talk about him next. It wasn't really the impact in the fourth quarter as much, but it's Derrick White who is finally back to fourth quarter D White that we've come to know and love. Right? In this game, he finishes the game with 27 points, 10 of 21, 6 of 15 from 3. Yes, that's not, a great 3-point percentage, but it's well above the 30 point percentage that he was shooting through the first 10 games of this season, really 20 games of the season, to be honest. It's hard to believe we're already at almost a third of the way through the season. But he's back. It's the confidence, that's one thing. It's the defense that is coming from his confidence because he's not feeling bad for himself after missing tons of threes and giving up on the defensive end. He knows that he has an opportunity to, impact winning each and every night, and he's capitalizing on it. In this game, I think probably his best three was not actually the one in crunch time, or maybe it was right outside of crunch time. Obviously he hit 2 massive threes in crunch time, but it's the one where it's sort of a scramble for the ball. He gets trapped in the corner, sort of loses the ball, it gets stripped from him, and he's sort of falling out of bounds, finds a way to recover it inbounds, and just turns and just shoots a 3 with a guy right in his face. Maybe it was right even behind him. Could have easily been blocked, but just the audacity to take a shot like that, knock it down with confidence, and stop just a massive momentum swing in the Raptors' favor, right? The Raptors, it was right after them cutting the lead down to 0 and taking the lead, and Joe Mazzulla has no timeouts, using all of them during that run, and Derrick White just completely flips the game around, gets the game back in the Celtics' hands for him to finish it out through the last 5 minutes. Right? We can talk about individual performances from other guys, but it's Derrick White's game. Just the brilliant playmaking, shooting, defense in that fourth quarter. I am going to wrap it up shortly. We are going to talk about Jaylen Brown, but before we do that, I will just mention that we don't have a Celtics game until Thursday, I believe. They get a couple games off with the NBA Cup here. And being that, we are actually going to do a bonus podcast episode on Wednesday evening. It'll come out Wednesday evening. I'm not sure what time, but, around dinner time, maybe a little bit later. And we are going to talk a little bit about the Celtics, but we're actually going to do mostly a, talk of stories and, happenings around the entire league, around the association. And that will be a bonus episode coming out Wednesday night because, as I had said, we're going to do actual episodes after every 3 games. And given that we don't have a game until Thursday and the next 2 games are not going to be later until the week, I think we have just 2 games in 10 days, something like that with the NBA Cup. Some weird schedule. So we'll probably do actually another bonus episode on Saturday as well, or whenever they don't have the game, whatever the off day, either Saturday or Sunday, one of the two. We'll actually do it live, the Saturday one, so that'll be fun. We haven't done a live episode in a while, so that'll be fun. So make sure to tune in there. But to finish this up, Jaylen Brown, another 30-point performance, and it's one that was quiet. He didn't have a great shooting percentage in this game, 9 of 19. He does knock down 3 of 4 from 3, which is nice. He does make all 9 free throws, something that we rarely see from Jaylen Brown. But him just quietly getting to 30 points, not even the star of the game, doesn't take away from anything that Derrick White was doing in this game or anyone else. And it's now the, I don't even know, 12th game out of the last 15 game where he's had 30 points or more, maybe even better. I mean, I can only think of the one game where he had less than 30 points, and that was the game that he had the triple-double with, 10 rebounds and 11 assists, something like that, right? So when he's not doing the scoring, he's playmaking and rebounding. So there's never been, I don't even know if the last time he had a bad game in terms of overall impact on a night. And that's, he needs to be in the MVP conversation. Obviously, there are just two guys that are going to win the MVP, right? It's Jokic and it's SGA. But I don't think that matters. I think him being in a top 5, I don't know if he's quite there to top 5, but he's definitely in above top 10. I'd have him probably 7th right now in the MVP race, especially with a team that is now 3rd in the Eastern Conference, right? It's one thing when you have a record of, just about 500, but when you're, 6 games over 500, and you're the reason on most nights that the Celtics are winning, he definitely needs to be in that MVP conversation. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Follow on social media. We have a brand new Instagram account, as for some reason my Instagram account got blocked. I'm not sure why. But please go and follow it. Brand new as of the other day. So link will be in the description. So make sure to check that out. Obviously, TikTok. And then you can check out Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts for the latest episode where we talk about the Chris Paul situation with the Clippers, Giannis, wanting out of Milwaukee, and then obviously talking about the Celtics' recent hot streak that they're on. But yeah, until next time, go Celtics.